stream live now. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, is now being broadcast on NPN Voice. NPN Voice can be found on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, and now on Audible and Amazon Music, and anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, now on NPN Voice. NPN Voice. Got voice. You heard?
Suave afternoon, suave afternoon, suave afternoon. This is Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator. Hope you guys having a suaveless day.
Yeah, and with that, let's commence the pay. Okay, I'm so suavelous, you so suavelous. Together we can fix the trauma that's befallen us. Divine social interactions remains marvelous. Mind-blowing, suavelicious talk, higher consciousness. But think, letting at your heart's be trouble, Dr. Brother Suave. Divine light getting dull.
Greetings, this is Dr. Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator, and host of Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave. Man, I am so happy on season 3, episode 8 on this beautiful Wednesday, December 14, 2022. I'm so blessed. I just thank God for waking me up with my health, life, and strength, allowing me to see another day I've never seen before. I just thanking him to just another day to get it right, another day to repent, another day to apologize, another day to tell the friends, family members, and those who I respect, I love you. And so I just want to just thank God because, hey, it's millions and millions and millions and billions and billions and billions of people on this planet. And guess what? You and I was able to see another day. And so we always have to be grateful for that opportunity to another day to get it right. So I thank him. And I just want to add a new component to Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave. I always say, like, imitating is the greatest form of flattery. My mentor, actually, he does it on his podcast. And I just wanted to do that. And it's birthday shout outs, so his my mentor, Brother Wally, on Wally Wisdom, WKYT podcast. Well, Wally keeps you thinking. So what I'm going to do is do some birthday shout outs for people who had birthdays recently. So I want to give a special shout out birthday to one of my Marine Corps buddies, fellow law enforcement, and find out we was family. Just want to give a special shout out to Brother Kenneth Otley. Wow, messed up, cuz. Sorry about that. And also want to give a special shout out to my brother, who always mentored me and always been there for me. One of Atlanta's greats. Record was finally broken about 16 years. That was John Abraham. But special shout out to Joel Williams from the Atlanta Falcons. And also Dr. DeJuan Abrams. She had been on the show for a couple of times. Happy birthday to you. And one of my homeboys I grew up with, Mr. Greg Hutto. And last but not least, Miss Benita Hicks. So birthday shout outs to you guys. Hope you had a very wonderful and pleasant and blessed birthday. So now that's out the way, I'm just excited about tonight's topics, and tonight's topic is everyone has the right to change their mind. I'm just going to really get into it because so many people always got something to say about when a person makes a decision that's in their best interest. And again, we start realizing when a person make their decision was in the best interest for them, it has nothing to do with you. And sometimes, like my dad always say, you stay in your lane and I stay in mine. We won't have no accidents. And some of you guys got to really learn to stay in your lane. Keep your opinions to yourself. If you don't have anything good to say, just don't say anything at all, And so I just want us to realize, because so many people have a problem when people make decisions that's in their best interest. And the reality is we don't always know all the details. We think we do. We give our opinions, but again, opinions, like buttholes, everyone has it. And a lot of times we always giving our opinion, and a lot of times it just doesn't count. So again, You may or may not get offended, but the reality is sometimes we always getting things mixed up, but God doesn't control everything. Yeah, and you're like, whoa, how dare you say that? Well, the reality is y'all must forgot. He gives us free will. He gives us free will. Why do you think people can go? It's some horrible things, but why do you think people can blow up buildings, kill people, rape babies, do some terrible, horrible things? But it's free will, and God grants us that. And now, trust, it's going to be some consequences. It's going to be financial consequences, criminal finance consequences, religious consequences, spiritual, legal, a whole bunch of consequences. But nevertheless, you still have the right to make your own decisions. So we must be mindful of that. So it's going to be some consequences, but we have to realize that everyone has free will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into some of the topics and the issues and scenarios that I'll be discussing tonight. So again, when we say having the right to make your own decisions or the right to change your mind, and some of the things is like when you're a kid, you say you want to play sports. And one of the scenarios that so many of us are exposed to is a kid. He says, man, I want to play football. And so he's all excited. Then he go out there and get that first hit. Guess what? He changes his mind. Like, nah, I don't want to play football anymore. I know a lot of parents and experience that with their child. But again, everyone has the right to change their mind. And throughout the night, I'm going to be saying that a lot because I want to knock it home that everyone has a right to change their mind. So again, if a person decides they want to play sports, they may want to play tennis. They may have a totally different experience with that and don't want to play it anymore. They may want to play basketball. They may want to play football. They may just want to even get in a band. And here's a great example when I think about sports. You guys not familiar, but I believe it was in 1996. Charlie Ward won the Heisman Trophy winner. Heisman Trophy winner, the best college football player in the nation. Guess what? He's the only Heisman Trophy winner to play in the NBA. So guess what? Obviously, he changed his mind. He no longer wanted to play football. Yeah, the NFL probably wanted him. Maybe they didn't. But then they have a right to change their mind if they want to draft him or not. But everyone has a right to change their mind. And we have to always remember, we get so personal in other people's business, you know. And so another thing, colleges. Oh, man, I couldn't figure out what college I wanted to go to because I had so many different options. But again, colleges can be a situation where you constantly change your mind. You may be going to college and you say, well, I want to go to a HBCU. Or you may want to go to a PWI. Or you may even want to go to a trade school. Or you may even want to go to the military. Throughout that, you can change your mind. It's up to you. You can change your major. Many people change their majors. Again, it's up to you. And even speaking of military, you may want to go in the military, but you don't know which branch. You may want to go in the Army. You may want to go in the Air Force. You may even want to go into the Marines. Like me, I decided I want to go into the Marines, but guess what? I changed my mind about going full time. So I decided to go reserve. So again, and throughout life, we have these personal experiences and we change our mind throughout our life and our journey. When other people do, we seem to have a problem. Just put yourself on a platform and everyone knows your business. And how would you feel if you decide to change your mind and everyone has something to say about it? So you have to always remember that. And I know how many of you out there who's listening who actually changed their jobs or careers, you know, because I definitely throughout my life being a young adult, I remember going to school forever, you know, and I got into law enforcement. I started teaching, and I remember going to acting, and then I went became a professional wrestler, and everybody was sitting there was saying, "Why are you doing this?" And it sounded like I was being sarcastic, but the reality is I gave a very simple answer because I want to. It's simple. But again, people always asking why and why. You don't question adults. They can do whatever they want to. Again, God grants everybody free will. And so you have the right to change your mind if you desire to. And I think that's what people have to realize, that people can do what they want because it doesn't affect you. So speaking of me saying, because I wanted to, I'm going to discuss this little things that's been trending for the past couple of weeks. And this is Dion's decisions to change jobs by leaving JSU and going to University of Colorado. Again, I don't know all the details. I don't know all the intimacies of what went on behind the scenes, nor do you. But guess what? He still got the right to make a decision that's in the best interest of him, his family, and even if it wasn't his family, it could be his dream, his decision. Just like when we have trying to get our soul saved or whatever, it's not about anybody except you. You have one soul, one heart, one life. You protect it at all costs. So let's say he has a dream to go wherever he wants to go. That's his decision. It may not be about the truth, it may not be anything, but it's still his right to do what he wants and pursue what he desires to pursue. And we got to stop taking things personal, getting in our feelings and talking about sellout and everything. And, you know, a lot of people are sellouts. A lot of people always giving their commentary about what people do. And I even think about, I was thinking, you know, how people take pride into a lot of HBCUs. I mean, I wish I would have went to one, but I never went to one. But I do see a lot of people taking pride about HBCUs, and they go into the homecomings. They're always wearing the paraphernalia. But have any of them made a decision to give back to those HBCUs? Because if I'm not mistaken, it's what, 3 to 5% of alumni giving back. So again, you guys spend so much time being critical about someone else. Be critical of yourself. You know, because I know we always bragging about the spending power of blacks. Well, blacks are attending HBCUs, right? So guess what? You got a lot of spending power to get back to your university that you attended. So maybe you want to keep that in mind, because we always the biggest critics of ourselves, but sometimes we need to be critical of ourselves. You know, so keep that in mind. So again, he has the decision to change his mind, and I believe he made the best decision on his life, his career, and whatever he chose to do. But the reality is, it's none of our business. And the funny thing is, people are always saying things like, "Why he did this?" Well, why do you change jobs? Why do you change careers? Why do you change relationships? Why do you change churches? Oh my God, I shouldn't even said that. Because people get in their feelings, they'll change church like they got drafted from one church to another. But that's another story. So let me not even talk about that. Again, people have the right to change minds, even change churches. So I'm going to just leave that alone. But I just wanted to touch bases on Dion's decision to change minds and how we always having something to say. So moving forward, however, very brief, I'm going to be talking about this brother, Derek Jackson. And again, things trend. People are just going off, waiting for something to say, saying, "Hey, I told you he was doing this. I told you to do that." Again, we don't know what happened, what decision, or what happened behind the scenes. We all know it's public, you know. But the bottom line is, cheating or not, he still has the decision. He has the right to change his mind if he wants to stay in a marriage or not. So again, you know, and we forget that, you know. He has the right to change his mind if he don't want to be in a marriage anymore, or if he got caught cheating and decides he can make a decision he want to fight for his marriage, or he can make a decision that he want to stay into the marriage, or he can make a decision he wants to go. Again, a lot of states are what they call it, no fault states. You can do what you want. And so this is the issue I'm talking about. You have the right to do whatever you want to. And so if you no longer want to stay in it, you have to remember that. So life changes. So I agree. It's normal for people to change their mind. Thank you, Chris. So again, I like that, because this is what I'm saying. People change their mind. This is normal. But again, we always like to pretend that we don't do this, and we spend more time being critical of other people, but forgetting that we do it all the time. You know, and we want to talk about everybody, but we forget that we're the ones. So again, there's a lot of projection out there. Again, people are always saying something about somebody else, but you don't know the background. And I'm going to talk about not necessarily Derek Jackson, but how sometimes people actually outgrow their relationships. So again, we don't know the backstory of why he did this and why he did that. We just know the little bit of things we know about him publicly because the camera is on him. So, and I want to ask you guys, have you ever heard that when a person is no longer connected or no longer emotionally connected to you, there's a high probability that they may cheat? So again, when you disconnected with someone, you may cheat because you're not happy. And we can say whatever, well, let them go. You go your way and they go their way. But sometimes people have strongholds. They have things they indecisive. It may be a strategy. They may want to call themselves cheating and still trying to straighten things out and so they can make a smooth transition. But again, this is not something that we have never heard before. We just want to sit there and gossip about other people's situation because it's what's trending now. But again, a lot of people been in that place that they don't longer want to be in a relationship anymore. So just because he's a high profile person doesn't mean he's any less human than you and I. And that's the thing we tend to forget. And so when people are on platforms, everyone has so much to say. And I guarantee you, a lot of you guys who was on a public platform, if the camera was on you every day of your life, I wonder how you would handle that pressure. So again, I just want to say it, like I said from the beginning, everyone has the right to change their minds. So if he wants to change his mind, so be it. So I want to pose this question before I go into a quick commercial break. Is that this is the question I have from you. Have any of you been married or in a relationship and decided to leave your marriages or leave that relationship? I'll give the answer and then I'll respond to it and we can get into dialogue about it. So right now we're just going to go into station identification and we'll be right back with Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave. Okay.
Programs like this are made possible by Neighborhood Planet Broadcasting Systems, Neighborhood Planet Network, iBlisters Digital Media Creative, and from contributions to NPN TV from viewers like you. Thank you. Tune in and stream live now. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, is now being broadcast on NPN Voice. NPN Voice can be found on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, and now on Audible and Amazon Music and anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, the podcast, now on NPN Voice. NPN Voice. Got voice. You heard?
Welcome. We're back with Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave, talking about everyone has the right to change their mind. Obviously, I didn't get any response to the questions, but I'm going to get into it anyway. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to pose a question, even to myself. It says, I wanted to pose a question to you. Have any of you ever married, decided to leave your marriage or a relationship? Of course, I have. Again, I said I want to talk about, when sometimes you outgrow your partner. Sometimes people always say, well, you should stay for the kids. Everyone got their opinion, but sometimes when a relationship is not there, it could become emotional volatile, it could be toxic, it could be violent. Sometimes you have to make a decision to move, and so those are the things you have to realize. And sometimes you get in a situation where you may even outgrow your partner. A lot of times people think, so let's say I wrote some things on here, some little notes. So when you're talking about outgrow your partner, and sometimes you make a decision to leave. So let's say you're a driven person and your partner is complacent. And sometimes let's say you're motivated and your partner is not. Let's say you person who's into fitness and your person who's not into bad eating and they're overweight. One person may be sloppy, the other person may be neat. One person may be very organized. The other person may just be disheveled and just plain not organized. Life is always in chaos. Yeah, one person's super clean, one person is dirty, one person is polished, one person is ghetto. So we have to be mindful what decisions that other people make, because you may be making the same decisions. But again, sometimes you looking at other people, but you're not really paying attention to your decisions that you have made throughout your lifetime. So you have to think about that. And also I wanted to say that, is marriage or divorce a prerequisite to heaven? A lot of times people act like leaving a relationship or leaving a marriage is like there is some punishment that God's going to give you, or is it a prerequisite in order for you to reach heaven? And sometimes it's about living right. And sometimes if you can't be in a relationship that's functional, and a lot of times people say, I'm gonna get into this stuff, but a lot of people say you got to pray on it. Well, a lot of times, man, you need to be praying for insight. And that's why I say my favorite book is the book of Proverbs, book of wisdom and understanding. So you maybe want to be able to get some wisdom and understanding why sometimes you're in relationships. And as I did a couple of few months back, you may be in a relationship that you unequally yoked. So that's just food for thought. So I just wanted to see how many people was going to respond to that, but unfortunately no one did. So check this. I don't have all the stats, but I know sometimes stats could be 10 years, 20 years, it could be 12 months, 24 months. But nevertheless, I just want to address this because, again, you have the right to change your mind. So I'm going to give you some statistics that in the year 2020, there was about 1.68 million marriages in the United States. In the previous year, it was 2 million marriages. Wow. But check this. About 35% of marriages made it to 25 years, but 65% did not. And so also it was some things where 48% of divorces, marriages end in divorce after about 10 years. And overall, there is a 44 to 60% of marriages that end in divorce. That's a whole bunch of change in your mind. So when we look at other people, we're looking at the Derek Jackson, we're looking at everybody got a right to change their minds. We spend more time worrying about other people instead of worrying about ourselves and looking at the big things. And so I wanted to say that. So this is a Suave because it is my Suave is that, here's the thing. There's 100% of people always saying, I'm gonna stay married through thick and thin, sickness and health, rich or poor. And again, 100% of people say that in their vows, but about 44 to 60% of marriages end in divorce. So again, you may have a perspective one way, but change your perspective later. And that's why I say one thing I'm adamant about is not being adamant about anything, because I may change my mind. I'm always getting exposed. I'm always learning. I'm always trying to get better insight. And guess what? I may just change my mind because of what I learned and what I experienced. So again, I have the right to change my mind. And I think, again, we have to remember people have the right to change their mind. And I said it at the beginning. I'm going to say it till I close out this social therapy session. So again, So it goes back to what I said. People got to change your mind. And I want to discuss also a few things before I conclude tonight's social therapy session. Excuse me. I want to know how many of us realize that, as I said earlier, how many realize that if your partner doesn't grow or you don't grow, there's a high probability that somebody's going to change their mind about how they view you, how they perceive you, and how much they want to be in that relationship. And so one of the things is we have to look at, there's a high probability when you're not growing in your relationship, people tend to want to change their minds. And I think we forget that. So a lot of times people, you have a person, again, as I mentioned in those scenarios, sometimes you just outgrow your person. You outgrow them, here you are striving to become the better version of yourself, but maybe want to go to school, get some training, learn about personal health and personal growth and development, want to get in shape, want to start drinking water, want to start eating right. And here it is. Your partner is just not into that. It reminds me of many relationships. I hear about, people who are they're striving and then they meet the person, they just comfortable. Sometimes you want to be in a person. That's why I would say you should cultivate and embrace with like-minded people for mutual betterment. So you have to be mindful of those things. So you may sometimes outgrow your partner. And next thing you know, even though you made all these vows, even though you made all this commitment, even though you made all these promises, but sometimes when you outgrow your partner, you outgrow that relationship. And if that person's not growing with that relationship, they end up no longer want to be in that relationship and they outgrow you. So guess what? You may be that person who decided to change your mind and no longer want to be in that relationship. So I just wanted to really talk tonight on that. I wasn't going to do a long show unless I had some dialogue. But the bottom line is you have the right to change your mind. And that's why I always say great minds reach great places. I love you. I mean it. Bye-bye.
Programs like this are made possible by Neighborhood Planet Broadcasting Systems, Neighborhood Planet Network, iBlisters Digital Media Creative, and from contributions to NPN TV from viewers like you. Thank you. We're shining bright, and we're shining the light on us like no other. Neighborhood Planet, our neighborhood, our world.